Hi, welcome to the second airing of Bridgegate with Joey Rullo. I'm Robert Goldberg, First Amendment TV. And this is a continuation of what's going on. If you missed our first episode, in the description you'll find a link to that episode to follow what's going on. And or you can subscribe and see more additional information we're going to be posting on this. This is an ongoing thing. It's not going to go away very quickly. We're two residents that live in New Jersey. And let's start by what's continuing from where we left off, Joe.
Again, I'm Joey Rullo. I want to thank you very much for joining us again. I want to thank the thousands of people who watched our second episode, which was actually about Bridgegate. There's a lot to cover. The most recent up-to-date today, which is Thursday, to the minute, Senator, as I said last week, there's going to be several different investigations. There's the FBI, there's the federal DOT, there's also the Senate of New Jersey, which is in addition to the Assembly, which is going to start their own investigative process. Well, Senator Rockefeller out of New York has just come back with his deadline today. The Port Authority had submitted the answers to his questions. The Senator Rockefeller is very concerned that there is no evidence of a traffic study at all. He said zero. So, two is that there are traffic engineers and traffic workers with Port Authority who were very concerned and brought up front that there could be side swipes and catastrophic accidents with such an event like this.
Let me just interrupt to let people know. The Port Authority is a joint venture between New York and New Jersey on Newark Airport, Kennedy Airport, LaGuardia Airport, and the Hudson River crossings, and the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, and the George Washington Bridge. It was a big corporation that was invented years ago to try and control all this traffic in the metropolitan area in New York City. So when you hear about the Port Authority, it's a big entity that encompasses all of this.
It's now considered a political patronage hut where a lot of people get jobs, but
extremely high-paying jobs.
Yeah, so getting back since the last show, they just passed Assembly Resolution 10, which gives special powers to the state assembly to subpoena, with subpoena power, as well as access to the special counsel until 2016. Another very interesting tidbit is that the assembly now hired a prosecutorial law firm, the same law firm who prosecuted the ex-governor of Illinois recently, Grigorievich, who recently went to jail for trying to sell Barack Obama the president's seat. Now, what's interesting is that this gentleman prosecuted a Democrat. So that's extremely interesting, too, is that this gentleman has made it a living of prosecuting corruption.
They can't say he's favoring Republicans or he favored Democrats because now he's going after both parties.
Another big update is, that there seems to be a lot of chatter out there that a picture has surfaced where 9/11, there was a memorial event that the governor attended, but he was with Weinstein and he was also with Baroni. And there was a statement during his speech when he first disclosed Bridgegate, his first, speech about, denying this, where he had mentioned that, he hasn't really spoken to Weinstein, but a picture surfaced recently that he was actually with Weinstein, Bridget, his assistant chief of staff, as well as Baroni. Another tidbit, which seems to be a smoking gun with this, is that there are a lot of inquiries, a lot of interest, and a lot of the investigation is going towards the initial emails that were sent, i.e. by Bridget, who is the assistant chief of staff of Governor Christie, and those emails, for example, time to close down and start traffic for Fort Lee with the GWB. Well, there were conversations that went on where they were joking about the kids being on a school bus and not able to get to school, and they were called Bono voters. Well, guess what? They're using the word didacted.
Now the problem is
they're using the word didacted. The word is deleted. There are deleted emails. Somebody who's saying, "Is it bad that I'm smiling?"
well, that's something I just want to bring up.
These deleted emails
They
are
knew
serious.
about this going on by mentioning those kids, so this was planned because they knew there were going to be kids stuck in traffic.
Well, the reason why the kids came up with the traffic is because there was some complaints, I believe, and they were just reacting to that.
Okay.
They basically, the fact that and that's another update.
So probably the bus drivers got on their cell phones to call and say, "Hey, we're stuck in this traffic. We're not moving anywhere."
Just like there were medics that the head of the Medics Association sent, days after that they weren't able to get their medics to the first aiders who were on scene, because you have a paramedic that shows up in addition to the police officer and the first aider.
Right.
Something that you brought up about that is Fort Lee, the Board of Education has denounced Christie's administration for going after and saying, for being so cruel and saying that, they're just Bono voters, kids. And that's insensitive, and the Board of Education is outraged about it, which I thought was kind of really interesting. Another really interesting, and again, I'm just covering initially really up to the minute, and so people understand where this case is headed, so they're not missing a thing. Baroni had testified back in late November when he was under oath with the Assembly, saying that nothing happened as far as it was a traffic study. And now after he was fired, and we now find out that he had a lot to do with these orders to intentionally, for political retaliation, close down this bridge. You have, players in this like Weinstein and possibly Baroni who are willing to testify under oath if they're not going to be held under any criminal matters or civil matters, if there's an immunity offer. This could get really interesting.
Well, if they're saying that already to prosecutors or potential investigators, they know stuff, and they're just going to say that this is what I was told to do, whatever. They wanted the brainstorms of this, so they're not going to fall on no swords for anybody.
Well, yeah, you're talking about, again, this is something that's coming up. Should there be criminal charges? And the answer is, if somebody intentionally planned this, knowing that it would cause a potential terrorist target to be vulnerable, lives could be at risk for first aiders not being able to get to respond, and police officers into accidents, and also accidents could occur. This is for political retaliation, this is a clear threat to domestic security. This is a clear abuse of power. This is a clear reason why anyone involved with this directly executing this plan of political retaliation should face criminal charges and possibly a prison term.
Well, it's the abuse of their powers, thinking they're better than everyone else.
Well, abuse of power is pretty cut and clear.
Yeah.
And, what's going to happen is they're going to basically end up in a situation where if they don't testify under oath with immunity, that's not going to guarantee them that they're not going to run into this situation.
And what else is happening now where we are today?
The Assembly was the original that was going to start and have a prosecutorial investigative team. They now have expanded to the Senate is going to do it under Weinberg, who's a senator, and they're going to hire their own attorney. And the reason why I believe this is happening, and ex-Governor Cody had recently, he was the acting governor, had recently disclosed that there's a situation where they feel that there may be Democrats that tried to quash this.
In what way?
For example, Norcross, who is the South Jersey Democratic boss, who Christie has an alliance with respect. I guess he respects Christie. DiVincenzo, who is the executive, which is like a freeholder in Newark. But more directly, Norcross made a statement that there would be better issues back when this wasn't out in the news. This is why they're expanding it to both the Assembly and the Senate, just in case there's some games played. I think it's pretty clever. I don't think it could hurt you to have an Assembly investigating this, the Senate, the FBI, the Department of Transportation, which is, one of the head committees that the senator, which Rockefeller is actually covering that, which is interesting that since, Senator Booker was on that for the transportation, I'm a little bit unsure why he's not more involved with a proactive role with this right now. We haven't heard anything from Senator Booker at this point. I'm kind of
Well, this all
why.
happened when he was just mayor of Newark at the time, too.
Well, no, this happened.
He's senator now because he got elected in November's election, Booker, and he's on the transportation committee.
He took over for Lautenberg.
Right.
As the
but he was
head
elected
of
to
the
that
Department
seat.
of Transportation.
He was elected to that seat.
Yes. So what my point is that, he's in a state where Christie has a high popularity, and it seems that, some are asking, is it being coy or is it just avoiding?
Wasn't there some rumor that pretty much Christie was supporting Booker? Booker was a Democrat, if I recall, because we didn't see the governor really supporting Steve Lonigan.
No, I would have to say that would be an inaccurate statement. I think that the governor completely backed Steve Lonigan, knowing that their history and the fact that Steve was at odds with the governor at all times. I think the governor actually put 1,000% into him. I think it's that Christie and Booker have a very similar branding. Okay. And I think that, Booker just doesn't want to, react with his branding. My suggestion to the senator, of course, would be that he should get more proactively involved because this is a corruption case. And there are people in the Christie administration that actually broke the law and, exercised or executed abuse of power. And there could be some criminal activity. And I would definitely want to get my name on the record with that, so...
There's so much spinning around with this. Where is this else leading into? Who else might be tied to this?
I would have to say that that's another good point that you brought up. This is a huge breaking news because that the Assembly is going to release, I heard, up to 20 subpoenas. Rumor has it the current chief of staff, which hasn't been brought in yet, several other officials that are in Port Authority. You have one interesting situation where you have a gentleman who was basically Patrick Foye, who was in charge of both New York and New Jersey. He was the appointee that I basically dealt with New York, and he from the onset was arguing with Sampson, who's an appointee of Christie on the high level for Port Authority, that this traffic study needs to stop. 5 days after the close down, Patrick Foye actually stopped the traffic study in its entirety.
The alleged traffic study.
Yes, and that's another thing is that Senator Rockefeller, asked about that. He also asked about, what is the deal with employees who testified under supervision and oath, that were saying, hey, we were afraid, we had to put these cones out, and we had to execute this thing knowing that we could lose our jobs if we don't do this.
Right, I was just going to mention that. So there's a lot of low-level employees that probably work on the bridge there that were told to put out these cones and get this set up and everything so they can be investigated. Who told you to do this? So it's going to wind up snowballing into a huge snowball going back from that, because they're going to go to the employees that were just following their orders to set up these traffic lanes closures. Who told you to do this? This person told me. Who told you to do this? Because there's a chain of command into this, and that's what we're looking for following now. Where's that chain of command going? Now, with this whole thing about political retaliation, are there any others that have potential political retaliations?
Well, pretty much the prior one that we went over was Jersey City with Mayor Follop.
Right.
Recently, there's been some very extensive articles written where Bridget, who is the Assistant Chief of Staff, was looking forward to meeting with Follop when he just won, so everyone knows the background of it, he just won Jersey City Mayor, and basically he would not support Christie or endorse Christie in the election. When he did not, but their whole schedule, they had a full schedule where Follop was going to meet with the administration and they were going to go through a lot of issues for Jersey City, and all of a sudden, which Follop's making allegations, that the Christie administration abruptly, within hours, canceled him off of the calendar.
Now, let me just stop you.
No access to the governor at that point.
Let me just stop you for a second, because you're saying follow-up. It sounds like follow-up, but follow-up is the mayor of Jersey City, Steve Follow-up, so people just know.
Follop.
Follop.
Yes. Steve
F-U-L-O-P, so it don't sound like follow-up.
Yeah.
So they know what we're talking. We're talking about the mayor of Jersey City.
You got it. Okay. And basically, in addition to that, there was a ongoing, which everyone knows, that an ally previous of Christie at times would be the Senate president, who's a Democrat. That Democrat, in addition to Christie, really wasn't getting along with Follop after the point of where Follop wasn't endorsing Christie. And there was legislation that was on the table on the last show where his town, his city, was waiting for financing and funding for different projects, which is, again, a way of figuring with retaliation. And recently it seems that there was a little bit of patching up between Steve Sweeney, who's the Senate president, and Follop himself, after this matter had exposed that this is a method in which they do that.
Any other cities having problems?
Very interestingly, Elizabeth, the mayor there, Chris Ballawag, is making an allegation, and also Hoboken Mayor Dawn Zimmer are also making allegations. I heard something about a closing of the DMV in one of the towns. Again, these are allegations. I wanted to point on something. Thumbs up to Governor Christie today for having the guts and the heart and the will to come to Manahawkin. If everyone remembers, when we first broke this story for episode 2 of Political Corruption with First Amendment TV, the governor pretty much did his work out in the morning, found out about this scandal that had occurred, and he had a 11 o'clock big announcement to make in Manahawkin.
And that was on?
That was going back last week. And he had to cancel that. But today, he did meet over in Manahawkin, and, there weren't any questions allowed to be asked to the press, which is probably a smart move at this point. I wanted to also add that the governor, the assembly hired the ex-prosecutor of the governor who sold Barack Obama's seat as their prosecutorial and investigating attorney on the assembly. But Christie also hired a high-power attorney out of New York. So, things are starting to really flow with this and roll. This is going to get complicated. There's going to be in-depth information about different things that people aren't going to understand. And we're going to give you a no-spin inside of the players and the motives.
So in some instances, some information might be a little quiet because both sides are preparing a defense and one's preparing a prosecution, so they're gathering their evidence, and a lot of them are not going to want to talk about what's really happening quite yet in their investigations.
There's going to be, you're going to start to see a lot of almost theater going on, where there's going to be calculated releases of things. For example, you have today the Assembly head of the Department of Transportation in New Jersey, who's going to be pretty much spearheading this whole thing on the level of the Assembly. He's announcing today that there's going to be between 10 and 20 subpoenas, which, again, going back to AR 10, Assembly Resolution 10, gives broad powers to the State Assembly, which is pretty intense. They're going to be able to basically get subpoenas all the way until 2016. They have special prosecutorial powers and access to anything that has to do with Bridgegate and Port Authority. They're going to be able to pretty much uncover almost anything you can.
Now, do you think, this is something I just thought about, do you think that we're going to see certain medias playing on both sides to try and get them to leak certain information by throwing out false rumors out there?
There's always going to be...
And trying to get each side to defend these comments that these media networks are going to try and entrap both sides on.
Well, yeah, you have media sources that, you know, are very objective, and then you're going to have other ones that have an agenda to the left or to the right. And the ones that are to the left are going to obviously leak out things that might not be the right thing to leak out because there's not enough evidence. And the same thing with the right side. There seems to be a lot of, you know, rumors flowing around, but anything that we're doing on this show, I make sure that I have more than pretty much more than 5 references on what I'm using with my material. Major sources. You know, I'm not just watching Fox News, I watch CNN. I don't only look at, you know, Asbury Park Press, which is the local New Jersey paper, Star Ledger as well, but the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. Chances are, if you get a good mix, you know, you're going to get a pretty good, broad, but very focused picture on what's right and what's wrong because of the repetitiveness of it circulating throughout different articles and different sources of media.
The reason why I brought that up is because that's why I started First Amendment TV. I feel that the media is not really doing their job on reporting accurate facts. They are aligned with political parties, on both in a way. And really, people need to know what's actually going on to make an informed decision when certain things are happening that, you know, so a lot of people might say, how does Bridgegate really affect me? This is what's going on in politics. This is what we're trying to find out, and this is what we want to see stop in this country. Because they're answering to themselves for their political power and its political corruption, and people don't realize it's affecting everyone's life.
It has a lot. I think it has a lot to do, to answer your question, with the availability of information. You know, I'm an insider, so I don't have to learn what and who the players are, how it works, you know, where to look. Whereas someone from CNN or even Fox News, you know, they're covering all the states throughout the whole nation. So this is just, boom, all of a sudden they have to become experts in the New Jersey legislature and New Jersey politics and understanding who's in what positions. It's not the easiest thing to do, what we did before this update. I mean, this is a lot of information that we covered. In fact, I was surprised, you know, to see my prompt notes that we got through it in less than 17 minutes. You know, the update to bring it up to the minute. Really, what we're waiting for, folks, and I wish that it was out, and it should be out probably by the time our show comes out, is who is going to be the 10 to 20 subpoenas today. That's going to tell you a lot. You asked the question before. For sure, I would say it's going to be Bridget, who is his assistant chief of staff.
Who was terminated.
It's going to probably be Baroni, again, even though he pretty much showed up in November saying that it was a traffic study. I think it might be Foye, Sampson. These are the two Port Authority people. The one that actually closed the study, the one that opened up the study, and rumor has it, that even his press secretary might end up, under oath as well.
So also we might even see with these three different cities, Elizabeth, Jersey City, and Hoboken tied into this, because it's going to probably wind up linking the same people that are involved with Bridgegate involved in this.
There's no doubt in my mind that politicians, like I said before, train through almost a Pavlov dog approach. If you don't do what they want you to do, you're not going to get attention or be on their radar, like the Fort Lee mayor said he wasn't on the governor's radar. And this happened in the Democratic governorship as well during Corzine, where Ocean County, which is Republican, would never receive any kind of funding, and nobody brings that up. I think what's really important that we focus on a few different things is that number one, that the governor is innocent until it's proven that he lied and that he covered this up, or that he knew something, or that he planned this. Because, like I said, if he was really involved with major issues like running for president, I'm going to say that if he's not lying, which I believe him that he's not lying, that he was doing too much at one time and he wasn't managing the administration. And that
also you have people that you put in certain positions to handle certain situations.
Well, Governor Keene said it, along with Brendan.
And they could have gone on with their own.
The past Governor Keene and the past Governor Brendan Byrne said this would never happen under their watch, and it didn't happen under their watch. And why didn't this happen under other administrations so huge? There's so many people involved with this that it's like, what is he, like the only one that didn't know? And you know what? I think he was. And at the end of the day, if he can't manage New Jersey, he's not going to be able to sell anyone that he can manage being president of the United States. And they've managed, at the very least, to paint him as a bully.
I got to defend that accusation, Wade, because I've had a franchise business before, and you put people in charge to handle certain situations to make your job easier to manage certain aspects of the business. So these people could have been thinking they were doing the right thing for the governor, never told him, and they just went off doing it, and they let their power run amok.
You hit it on the nose, Robert. We spoke about this on our last show, is that the administration who elected him as governor basically didn't know that it was not campaign mode anymore. It was still running for president mode. And the fact is that it does come across that the behavior and the culture was acceptable. Yeah, you actually just answered a question that a lot of people are making another allegation, that was this caused because this is something that the governor would approve of.
Or they were taking advantage of their power also and figured, but if the governor don't know, fine, well, I'll take care of it anyway. And he probably didn't know, and these people just let their own power-hungry attitudes run amok, and they got a little too greedy, and a greedy thief always gets caught one way or another.
And the bottom line is that no matter how you look at it, there are a lot of very concerning things that I would like to get over with. One is who were involved, who were the people in those deleted emails, and who were they, and what you have conflicting statements where after 9/11, which was 2 days after the bridge was closed down, the governor was with Weinstein, but he's got to make it clear to the media that, when he said that he hasn't spoken to him, that when that was, because it came across as to a lot of people that he hasn't spoken to him in this longest period of time, and now there's a picture that surfaces, during a 9/11 event. Another statement too that I think the governor, this would make him really, more precise and people would probably see more of an apology, is that when he opened up with his inaugural speech, it was, mistakes had been made. These were not mistakes. These were intentional.
Oh, that's obvious. This was all intentional.
This was an intentional abuse of power.
Now it's finding out who
Now
made
it's a
it
matter of is it
intentional,
obstruction.
why did they make it intentional?
Obstruction of justice is involved. Cover-ups. This is not a mistake. And, he's got to make that clear that, this is not a mistake. That this, he has to take complete and total responsibility because I do, again, want to, for the second time, say that I was very happy to see the governor go to Manahawkin, New Jersey today for the most important event to disclose a lot of policy information and updates with Sandy, as well as bring up the progress.
Hurricane Sandy, for people that don't know.
Yeah, but this was canceled abruptly, and I told the governor on the last show, episode 2, that those days have to be gone. That you need to move forward with this, and when you have an appointment, when you have an event, you got to show up because now the media is going to think that there's no reason you should be canceling because there's something that's coming up, and they're going to think there's something going on. That's where he's at right now. He's got to be consistent. He's got to be persistent. The other thing too is I've seen I see someone who is being drained, and this must be a very, very arduous, exhausting process to be on the receiving end of this much negativity, to be high on the tippy top, and to get thrown to the bottom and to be stepped on. And you can see the body language, you could see the posture.
Well, it's because he's worried
He's a
about
different
any little
man.
thing he says is going to be scrutinized right now.
He's a different man, but
Oh yeah, because he's in a defensive mode.
Again,
he could smile the wrong way and they could say he's guilty.
I don't think he should change who he is. I just think that, again, the name calling, make that a thing of the past.
It's not going to be a thing of the past. Both parties are going to do it. The media is going to do it. Really, this comes down to hard evidence to prove that he really was involved with this. They're going to have to link emails, phone records, tweets, or whatever that he knew somehow it is.
And
Otherwise,
let's be
it's
honest.
really hearsay from everyone.
Let's be honest. What this is about is the Democratic Party has a major assembly bill which gives broad powers. They're now going to have a Senate bill with broad powers. There are U.S. Senator Rockefeller out of New York, Transportation Committee, FBI-led, Democratic-led FBI. And if there is something in there that they're looking for, but there might be other things that other administrations have done and people don't know, and it's going to be the first time disclosed because now you're being looked under by a microscope. Okay? I suggest that anybody who's pro-Christie, that you acknowledge that the administration failed, that even though the governor didn't know about it, and that they are to blame, and that it was a abuse of power, that there were crimes that were committed, to move on. Rather than trying to, bring up other scandals, which are to the average person, or the average person in the audience, or the popcorn gallery, or the polls, people, all they can hear is Bridgegate. They don't want to hear about Benghazi. They don't want to hear about the IRS scandal, because right now, this is the investigation. And when someone tries to debate, this is black and white, folks. Corruption is corruption. Whether it be Benghazi, the IRS, whether it be Bridgegate, it's all different forms, but it's all the same. And anything less than acknowledging that there's been an abuse of power and to try to move forward without acknowledging that, it's pure politics. And we need to focus on the truth. And there has been a consistent avoidance and coy, if you will, by major Republican leaders who come short of saying, well, the governor is innocent, but if he's found guilty, he's in a lot of trouble. Well, you didn't hear that on this show. You heard, I believe he's innocent. I believe he's telling the truth. I'm not going to try to figure out if he's lying, what's going to happen. Okay, because that's not the next step. The bottom line is that right now, you know, we are in a system where it's innocent until proven guilty. And, you know,
it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good, but at the same time, you have to give somebody their past track record.
And credit.
And credit for who he was. But I'm going to tell you that there is a serious, cumulative, from the beginning of this till now, heavily resourced, heavily supported with motivation and a force that's going forward that you cannot stop. And what the governor's doing is awesome. He is going to cooperate. And at the end of the day, this is a lose-lose situation. In other words, his administration is going to, I'm going to go out on a limb here. His administration, not all of it, but part of it, is going to be found guilty of abuse of power, obstruction of justice, and possible crimes and damages and different things like that. This is a very serious situation. And when I hear people talking about you have to be specific on, you know, I'll be very specific. Anybody who knew that closing this bridge and they planned this, this is a very serious situation. There isn't anything positive about it.
Now, we have to give the governor a little, I don't know if it's credit or leeway, because there are rumors that he might run for president in 2016, which I think is kind of ridiculous to even talk about now because it's so far away. But if he is found innocent of any of these connections, I could still see the Democrats throwing this in there to take advantage of this mark and say he did have a knowledge of it, but they didn't prove it, and he's got to defend that in a way.
I'm suggesting to the governor of New Jersey to, like episode 2 of Bridgegate, that right now I would probably stop running for president.
Well, he didn't say he was running for president. Well, it's the media that's saying it. He
established on episode 2 that what is required is 2 years before is groundwork being laid. For example, he's going to Florida for fundraisers.
Okay.
Okay? That, if he's the governor of New Jersey and he's going to do fundraisers in Florida, there's a reason people don't do things for free as far as energy.
What do you mean?
Expending energy.
They're not as nice as you?
Well, you're not going to go to Florida to help people out unless they helped you, or there's something in it for you. And there is a campaign mode of 2016. We've already established that I have an inside source that he was going to run in 2012. My suggestion is the governor loves New Jersey. And when he is only focused on New Jersey, he is very focused. And when you're trying to deal with public opinion in your own state, when you're involved with an investigation in your own state, and you have a national poll that you're trying to deal with, plus running for president. See, I don't buy that he's not running for president. He is running for president until he lets the media know that he is not going to run.
And it's pretty much the same with Hillary Clinton, that she's pretty much running for president even though it's not said.
Of course, and we all know that a lot of Hillary Clinton's supporters are probably the biggest disseminators of the information about this Christie scandal. Like we were talking about, there's right and left. You know, they're definitely funneling out the information that is not true or that is exaggerated, and to try to damage Christie worse. I mean, Christie's now 10% behind her in the polls versus before he was even with her. He had a 70% approval rating in New Jersey. He's now down to like 49 or something like that. And it's going to get worse. And, you know, you have Governor Keene, who is one of the most respected governors ever, saying that there needs to be an investigation. He's not giving Christie a break at all. Well, you have major leaders that are coming out that don't really care that he's running for president.
Well, they're saying it because they have to say it, but it's obvious this needs to be investigated, and the Democrats are not going to let it go.
No.
And the Republicans are not sure who's really guilty here, so they're going to be quiet.
Nobody of any ethical standard or, you know, clear conscious mind of law-abiding is going to walk away from this issue.
No, this is not going away.
Now, this is a very serious thing that is going to mentally, physically drain this governor. And my suggestion would be is that I would probably batten down the hatches, and I would probably focus on being governor of New Jersey. And I would probably let go of the presidency at this point, because this thing is going to get 10,000 times worse.
And what I'd like to say right now, we are going to end this segment, and we would encourage people to subscribe to the First Amendment TV channel, so as more updates come, you'll get your notification through YouTube, and you could always come back and check. But because this is a never-ending situation, it's going to be extremely interesting.
Yeah, it's a great idea to make sure you subscribe at the end of this. It's just you got to...
Also, I would like to say to people, in the comment sections, we don't erase any of the comments. There are some nasty comments about us too, whatever, this and that, but we welcome your comments, and we encourage you to have conversation with other people posting comments on the comment section on YouTube there. So, let's be a part of this, because it's nice to see how other people are thinking about this and what they're thinking about.
And again, my name is Joey Rullo, and this is my show. It's called Political Corruption, and we're covering Bridgegate. And again, I want to thank you all for watching this show. I want to thank First Amendment TV with Robert Goldberg for his excellent producing. And thank you, and have a great week.
We'll get back to you soon, probably with some interesting information.
Episode 4 is coming up soon.
Take care, folks.